discuss today. I wanted to, Joe, I wanted to provide an update to our community regarding the events that have gotten some public attention here over the last few days. It's a situation that unfolded late Christmas Eve at 11:51 p.m. We had a use of force event that occurred against Mr. Tario Anderson. And that was pursuant to police officers investigating sounds that they heard and thought to be gunshots, and were corroborated by another citizen calling 911 who lived in the area to report gunshots being fired. Because this has garnered significant public attention here in our community, I felt it was important to try and let you know the facts as we know them as they stand today, because I do believe and have seen reports of information being presented as fact that's simply not true related to the incident as it unfolded. So the facts as we know them today, knowing that the result of the investigations may in fact change those facts as we know them. And so we're not married to these facts. Once the investigations are complete, we'll have disclosure on what took place. Two, how our investigations are being conducted and by whom. Three, how we're proceeding with disposing of the charges against Mr. Anderson and why. And four, what we believe to be helpful pointers for anyone to have a positive encounter with a police officer and a safe encounter for both that individual and the police officer. We think that given the national attention and climate that we have, that spreading information about how to engage a police officer and how to remain safe if a police officer stops you, and how to challenge the authority of a police officer if you feel that that officer is acting inappropriately or treating you with disrespect or not managing the situation properly, how you can handle that. Because I think that there's a time and a place that we can work through those things together where everybody remains safe. And that really applies to every community throughout our country. So at 11:51:06, we had shots fired call that was received from an individual on Anderson Road in Nelson. And that person, a female, called in and reported hearing 4 gunshots. And that is at 6 seconds after the minute. At 23 seconds after 11:51 p.m., Officer Burdett calls out with another unit on Sullivan Street and says that he's heard some loud noises that he's investigating. They indicated in their report that they believed them to be shots, but they heard these loud pops and were investigating. At 11:51:45, which is 22 seconds later, Officer Burdett calls out that he's out with a suspicious person at Sullivan and Burns. At 23 or 11:56, we received a call from Mr. Anderson's mother, Carolyn Anderson, stating that our officers were beating her son and they tased him. At 11:57:34, Officer Burdett calls for medic to come inspect and provide any care for Mr. Anderson. Now, there have been a number of claims about that, so he was secure by 11:57, so no more than a span of 6 minutes in total from the time the officers heard the gunshots to the time that Mr. Anderson was secure. Some people are putting out there that we fought him or he was exposed for 20 at this point by any of the facts present from any of our individual officers or any witnesses at this point. I can tell you that our officers were trying to provide public safety to that community, and their interest was to try and uncover whether or not there had been a crime committed, whether that was just discharging a firearm or whether somebody had in fact been shot or assaulted with that firearm. As they approached Mr. Anderson, they did not recognize Mr. Anderson, neither of the three officers actually, but initially two officers that first came in contact with him had met him before. So they were unfamiliar with him or his handicap, autism handicap. And so when they directed him to stop, or actually shined just the spotlight from the car on him as they approached, he tucked his head and began walking the opposite direction, and according to the officers, put his hands in his pockets. As the officers got out of their car and they asked for him to stop, he began to run. He didn't make any comments, he just began to run. The officers gave chase on foot and directed him at this point, what we know, 3 times to stop or that he would be tased. And the officers had not met him before, did not know his mental handicap, and felt that they had given sufficient commands before he discharged his taser. As we understand, the probes from the taser struck one of Mr. Anderson's arms. I'm not sure whether it was left or right arm, and he fell, I believe, to the sidewalk. And the officers began to try and take him into custody at that point. Mr. Anderson is large. His driver's license or his state identification card indicates that he is 6'6" and 320. Our officers and others believe it's 6'7" or 6'8" and 370. So he's a large man. He's 34 years old, but he does suffer from autism. So as the officers were trying to control his arms and his legs so that they could handcuff him, Ms. Anderson came outside. Her statements to the officers, as were indicated on the YFF program by a third-party observer and the person who was videoing the incident, was that her son was retarded and that they needed to take her to jail or tase her, not him. The officers were at that point trying to secure Mr. Anderson as they were trained, I believe, to secure, settle the situation, and then figure out what to do next. So we move now because he was charged in municipal charges, and I will tell you that the disposition of those charges is that we are working with the city attorney's office, who prosecutes municipal charges, and with the court, the municipal court. And I've spoken with Judge Hawley this morning, and so the city attorney's office will be working with Judge Fulbright this week to dismiss those charges against Mr. Anderson, because we believe, from our own understanding of this situation, that he is not competent to sustain those charges, and that it would be the appropriate thing to do to dismiss them. We will work with Senator Allen to work to get his record of the arrest expunged. That doesn't mean that the arrest was unlawful on its face. It just means that, given his mental condition, it would be inappropriate to prosecute him, and it would be inappropriate for his record to reflect the arrest. So then we enter the investigation phase, and the investigation phase is twofold. Internally, our professional standards division will coordinate an investigation to determine whether or not our officers followed the law, as we understand it, and our policy with regard to use of force and investigative stops in our policing in general. The second investigation has been requested, and that is the criminal investigation, because there is an allegation by Mrs. Anderson of excessive force against her son. That essentially is an allegation of an assault. And so that allegation is investigated criminally, and we have asked SLED to come in and do that investigation. They have honored that request and have assigned 2 agents to conduct that investigation. Their investigation will be presented to the solicitor, Mr. Wilkins, and he will determine whether or not any charges are brought forward against any of our officers or whether they acted appropriately under the law. So you have, again, 2 investigations. One is independently conducted, and that's the criminal investigation. Then you have the internal to ensure that we have policy compliance with our training and our policy standards. In any case, where people are trying to understand whether or not somebody's rights have been violated in an interaction with the police, people can come forward and they can make a complaint. They can make a complaint to me. They can make a complaint through any supervisor or any employee within the department, or call professional standards directly. They may call their council person. They may call the city manager's office. They may take it to the Fire and Police Commission, which is an independent body appointed by council that can take complaints and hear appeals of dispositions and complaints. They can take their complaint to the solicitor, to an outside police agency, and in some cases, people have taken their complaints not only to the local and state level, but also the federal level, and requested civil rights investigations. Any investigation that were to come from this event would be supported by this police department, because it is my policy and my expectation that we have nothing to hide. That we, when our officers do the right thing, that we support them, and as a community, we need to support them. And when our officers make the wrong decisions, or we make a mistake as a police agency, or we act with malice as a police agency, that we hold people accountable for that, and that we make appropriate change. That's my commitment to my community. It's always been my commitment to policing and to maintaining standards of excellence and ethical behavior within any police organization that I belong. And I will say this, though, as a message to the public. We need your help to police our community. We cannot do it alone, and we cannot do it effectively if our authority to act is challenged at every turn. We are seeing more of that nationally, and it is a concern. It is a concern to policing all over our country. We do need the cooperation of the public to effectively police the public. So when an officer is with you and asks you to stop, talk to that officer. If you're not happy with what that officer is doing, saying, or how he or she is behaving, you should request immediately to speak to a supervisor and to have that supervisor on scene. I am unaware of a police agency anywhere that wouldn't have a supervisor available to come to a scene at any time. And so we're no different. And if that employee refuses to have a supervisor come to the scene, it's probably time to dial 911 or have somebody dial 911. But the physically resistant officer who believes that he or she is doing the right thing and enforcing the law can create a situation that is explosive and dangerous for both the member of the public and the officer him or herself. And so there are many, many ways to deal with that after the fact if you have a problem. And I would encourage people to not create confrontation at the scene of an incident or an event, but to challenge the behavior and the authority of the officer through the appropriate channels, whether they be through an internal complaint to the department, whether it's an outside investigation that is requested of the department and that officer's behavior. But that is the appropriate way for us to deal with conflict between the police and community. And then there's the whole matter of working with your community and your community working with police. I have with me today, not just members of the department, but I also have the president of the NAACP, Greenville, and Derek Quarles, I can't remember you, are you vice president of Urban League? Just representative. Yes. But Derek Quarles is representing Urban League, and I have communicated with them and worked with them, and will continue to work with them to improve police-community relationships here in Greenville and hopefully in the upstate. We've got some dialogue and some initiatives that are in process that will take some time to develop, but our goal is to create a more aware and sensitive community and police department to the issues of policing. We also have with us Senator Carl Allen, who is an advocate for safe communities, but also for police accountability. And I'm not unabashed to say that. I think he has concerns about past experiences with police engagement, and I think it's fair to have all the interests and the concerns represented as we work through this or any other issue. So that pretty much concludes my remarks at this point, beyond just urging our community to stay calm, understand the facts. We will meet with community groups if you have interest. We will explain these facts and answer questions here and at community groups to help us work through this as a community and while these investigations unfold. My guess is the investigations will take a few weeks to get completely, or to get completed and to have a disposition. My goal is to present that disposition to the city attorney and the city manager, then to city council and to the public at large. Reverend, would you like to add anything?
I'm J.M. Fleming, the president of the NAACP, and we've been following this case from the time it happened. Someone called me, so I like the idea that challenging police, but they've been open with us thus far. About everything that we've asked them for, I want to say to the community, please, just be patient. Give the process a chance to work. And those individuals that are not in our community to come in to stir up problems in our community, call me. President of the NAACP, I'll come anytime.
Senator Allen.
Certainly want to thank everyone for attending, and certainly want to say that this is a serious occurrence in our community that gives us all a chance to come together and show cooperation. I am pleased and confident that the chief will do a thorough investigation internally himself, and equally confident that he called in SLED so that there's an independent arm that is looking at this situation. And want to publicly thank the chief for showing some emphasis on community policing, because only through community policing will we be able to have knowledge as much as possible of the citizens that are out there. And when you have someone in the situation medically, as this young man was, that is something that may be produced through community policing that will help all do their job. And so I want to thank you, Chief, for looking at this matter thoroughly, and say to the community, let's give the process an opportunity here to be able to determine all of the facts and then act appropriately after that. And I have the utmost confidence that the chief will look thoroughly at this matter and not leave any stone unturned. And I'm equally glad to be joined by the president of the NAACP who is encouraging fair policing and a thorough investigation today. Thank you.
Much of what I wanted to say has already been said, but I do want to reiterate that we want the community to remain calm. Having traveled around the country responding to incidents in Ferguson, I've been to Ferguson on my way to New York and California and other different places. We don't want to see here in Greenville instances of people responding violently, because I've seen on social media today and last night and over the weekend people making threats to the police department, making threats that they'll retaliate, and so we want people to remain calm and trust the process. Thank you.
All right, at this point, for any of us, if you have any questions, how do you feel?
I just want to make sure I understand one thing you said, Chief. The first two officers on the scene did not, they were unaware of who this individual was, but the third on the scene was familiar with Mr. Anderson.
The first two who engaged. The third one, as I understand it at this point, came on the scene after he was initially down. I'm not aware that the third one was involved in the foot chase. So the two that first encountered, they were working on paperwork nearby. That's why they heard the shots. So they were parked working on paperwork from a prior incident, and they heard the noise that they described the radio's noise that they thought were gunshots. They encountered Mr. Anderson, told him to stop. And so nobody out there on the scene was familiar with him. At least those three. And we'll just have to determine anybody else that came in after them. But the three who were primarily involved.
But you're saying upon further investigation, Mr. Anderson is familiar to some community policing officers?
Some of our officers who have worked that community
I see.
over the years. Yes.
They were not there that night? Okay. I just missed that. Okay. So you had dual investigations. Who requested these investigations? Was it his mother, or is this just a proactive?
Well, I think it was pretty clear that his mother was complaining of excessive force. So we initiated the investigation based on the comments that she made to YFF, and that she felt that the tasing and the force used against her son was basically unreasonable. As we look, and so she initiated that through the news media, not through us, but we took that news report and initiated our own investigation with her as the complainant.
So has she then not filed a formal complaint herself? It was something that was obtained through media?
She had not come to us and filed a formal complaint, no, she went directly to the media. So, but we picked that up, and again, if we're aware that somebody's accusing us of wrongdoing, we're gonna initiate that investigation.
What's the status of the officers that were involved? The investigation is happening, the internal investigation, the SLED investigation, usually an officer involved in this particular shooting. They're placed on administrative leave or designated. What's the status?
Yeah, well, this wasn't a shooting. Let's get that out there, because before long, it'll become that, I'm concerned. But it was not a shooting. It was the use of a taser, which is a less lethal force. It's not considered deadly force. Now, I understand that individuals have suffered from a taser and have died, but the comparative to the use of the taser, that's extraordinarily rare. Not unheard of, but extraordinarily rare. So in this case, the officers are still functioning on duty. I at this point have no reason to pull them from duty. There's nothing that stands out. Mr. Anderson sustained from the fall and from the wrestling or the resistance that he provided to the officers as they were trying to handcuff him on the sidewalk. He had abrasions to his left elbow, his left and right kneecaps, and his left cheekbone. And those were the only injuries sustained by Mr. Anderson.
We went to a meeting last night within the community. A large number of members of the African American community had worries that Tario was being racially profiled before the incident, and that's why they gave chase, that's why this is gonna happen in the first place. To that, what do you have to say?
Well, I mean, I think I laid out the timeline for you, and it was about 22 or 3 seconds after they heard the gunfire. They were parked and went looking for the source of the gunfire that they encountered him. So, you'll have to be the judge of that.
So
It's kind of hard to
basically,
profile.
are you basically
that
flat out denying the
circumstance.
allegations, or those allegations, as they say
Yeah,
right now?
I don't think that there's any merit to that in this case. We have an independent report of shots being fired. We have an independent report of shots being fired. We have officers who are in the area following up on paperwork. They hear those shots. They begin to investigate. They put a spotlight on somebody. That person turns and walks away and ducks his head as if not to be identified. We understand now that that's part of his condition and his response, autistic response, but the officers at the time didn't know that. So he's in the vicinity, he's the only person out, so they stop to check him out to see if he is possibly the shooter. I think for the allegation of profiling to have any merit, it would be that the officer stopped him because he was African American. That's not why they stopped him. They stopped him because he was in the vicinity of the gunfire at the time the gunfire was heard.
Do you think that this incident will at least give more awareness to the police department on how to handle people with special needs?
Well, the police department has done a lot of work, and Lieutenant Owens, who at the end of the week will be Captain Owens, has helped lead that effort with NAMI. So we have 124 of our 199 officers who are trained in working with mental illness, and we have continued to grow that over the years. And our goal is to have really a department where everybody is trained. Now, we have more than most, if not the most, of any department in South Carolina and probably the region that are trained. But it's not always easy to know in the instance that something takes place, that you're dealing with somebody with mental illness. The other thing is that people with mental illness can hurt you too, even if you know them. I personally know a deputy from my Tennessee days who ultimately was assaulted, his gun was taken from him, and he was killed in the line of duty by a person he knew and had known for decades. So you wouldn't think that those risks are out there, but they are for officers. And so there is a level of professional distance and protective awareness that an officer employs in his contacts with the public. And that's for everybody's safety. So the officer wouldn't necessarily know that at the time, and nobody knew that in dealing with Mr. Anderson. At least that's what the facts is. We know them today, reveal.
I have a question. This would be for Senator Allen, Reverend Fleming, Mr. Quarles. Each of you, during your comments, have urged people to stay calm. Has there been contact by so-called outside groups that want to come in, as someone indicated?
Well, when we say outside, we have folk who live in the county that does not live in the city that's come in to start up the questions and all of this tension and everything else. As I stood in the meeting last night, so I want to urge and caution the community, please give us a chance. We're watching the process. We're following the process. And so far, all I can say is that the police chief, they have been cooperating with us. We know what they're gathering, we're talking with them and everything else, so we're being open with our constituents, our community. All I can say is right now, please give us a chance, let the process work. We're watching that particular process.
And I would just simply add to what the president of the NAACP has said, is that within these types of matters, there is information being disseminated. So it's outside incorrect information that is being disseminated that sometimes causes the community to become inflamed. And so our emphasis is to let's gather actual facts that did in fact occur, and then process those facts through the investigations that are being done locally and
among leaders here in the community that there could be some Ferguson or New York type protest here in Greenville as a result of this incident?
I think that we started this process the day the chief was hired. He came to a meeting with every city in Greenville County, every police chief, every city manager and mayor. We've started a dialogue to ward off this kind of incidents ever taking place in Greenville, period. So we're working on that. That's a process. If we come back in another month and a half and bring together the information and everything else and answer questions, and then that the whole community is going to be involved in it 6 months from that time. So if there's any questions about what's going on, we're raising those questions. Is there anything that police need to be changed? We give them a litany, we give them a list of stuff that they can follow, that we're asking the questions about and our concerns in the community. So we don't want the community to think that they're all alone. No, we're already working on this. The police have been working with us, like I said, all of the cities, all the chief police and everybody else. They said that was a history-making thing because they've never had it to happen in Greenville, South Carolina before. We are working on it. We're addressing those issues. We're trying to keep that incident from taking place inside Greenville, South Carolina.
If I can add one more thing. One of the things, and this about, I don't know, about 4 weeks ago, I can tell you that, and it's an outgrowth of my experience from Greensboro. There is a professor from University of South Florida. Her name is Dr. Lori Friedel, F-R-I-D-E-L-L. But Lori Friedel is really an expert. She's worked for DOJ, COPS Office, and the Police Executive Research Forum, doing research into bias-based policing or racial profiling, and how to deal with bias. And so I brought her in a little over a year ago into Greensboro, and we had community and police together sit down and evaluate her course. And everybody liked it, even some of our critics liked the course, because the course actually is the work of, or the result of well over a decade's worth of research and effort and work, and understanding and research into police department policies and practices as well as bias. But it speaks to really the science of bias and how to manage it. And we all have innate biases, all of us. Doesn't matter who we are, we all have them. It's how we manage them and control them that makes all the difference in our interactions. And so she looks at it, all I can do is control myself at the end of the day, you understand? And all we as police officers can do is control ourselves at the end of the day. We can't manage everybody else's behavior. We can do our best, but to try and help shape the course of events, but we can't always fully control those events in the course and direction they take. But that training, I think, is valuable for police agencies. And to give you an idea, 4 or 5 weeks ago, when I first told her I wanted her to come into Greenville and help me, but I also wanted to kind of lead the effort a little bit for the state, because I do believe that the justice academies in the various states are behind the curve on this topic, and that we need to have specific education and understanding about dealing with the conflict that surrounds differences, cultural differences, racial differences, and have some level of competence in dealing with those things. And I believe that this course helps us do that. It examines our policies, tells us whether we're strong or not, and helps us examine how we direct and train our officers in managing interactions. It's called Fair and Impartial Policing. I was only 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was only able to get her, she was booked up through the end of July. So I blocked that time, and I said, if anything opens up in the meantime, please, put me on that list to take that time. She wrote me, oddly enough, either Christmas Day or the day after Christmas, and she wrote me and said, I now have an opening on February 23rd, 4th, and 5th. I said, book it. So now that'll cost a lot of money, but I'm bringing her in for Train the Trainer, and my goal is to involve multiple agencies in that training and get people trained up so that we can begin to deliver that training throughout the state. I'm also going to invite the Justice Academy to it as well. They don't know that yet, but I am. because I think it is inherently important for the conversation and the relationships between police and community to go in the right direction. So that's one step, and that's one proactive thing that's been on my mind since I knew that I was taking this job, and it would be on my mind, quite frankly, no matter what city I was serving. Thank you very much.
Can you guys give your names real quick? Spell them.
Derek,
You know mine.
Yeah.
J.M. Fleming, F-L-E-W-M-I-N-G.
Derek Quarles, P-E-R-R-I-C-K-Q-U-A-R-L-S.